Central banks are increasing their gold reserves due to increasing global financial crisis concerns. Billionaires like Ray Dalio to giant fund management companies like Goldman Sachs are turning to physical assets like gold. That's not surprising. Historically, gold's biggest rally happened after the largest recessions in history. In fact, after the 2000-2009 recession, gold prices jumped 50.5%. Think about what that means. Wealth of entire countries are being protected by gold. Wealth of billionaires are being protected by gold. Many people are using gold to keep their billions safe. And Noble Gold Investments can help you protect your own wealth too with gold. It will take you no more than 5 minutes to set up an account. Noble Gold specializes in storing the value of your wealth through gold IRAs, so they're the natural choice. And they're giving away a beautiful 1/10 of an ounce gold American Eagle coin with every qualifying IRA or 401k this month. Folks, do something different. You can't go wrong with Noble Gold. Call the team now at 877-646-5347. Once again, that's 877-646-5347. Or to find out more, please visit noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Hey, folks, I got a very special guest on. They're our sponsor. They've been our sponsor for quite some time, and it's a trusted sponsor, and it's something that I'm going to invest in. I keep talking about that. We've got a little bit of money here. We want to invest it, park it someplace where it can be safe. And the first place I'm going to go is Noble Gold. So I'm not telling you guys something that I'm not doing or Peggy and I aren't doing. We're in. We're in. So Collin, thanks so much for coming on the record. And today is the 14th, right? So it's the 14th of September, and yesterday the stock market basically tanked 1,200 points. That's really alarming. For those of you who have money in the market, you're getting creamed right now. Some of you are anyway. So with that in mind, what's your take? Why do people want to invest in Noble Gold, silver? And before I let you go, I had invested in silver years ago, and we went to the cleaners on this thing. We bought it really high at $32 an ounce, and we finally sold it at like 19 just to get out of it. So let's start with the market crash yesterday of 1,200 points. Why we're in this really volatile time, a very uncertain time, and why gold and precious metals are sort of like a staple.
Yeah. Well, first, thanks for having me on.
Sure.
I appreciate it. Always fun to talk to, people out there that are out talking to the world and have an interesting perspective. So it's really exciting for me anytime I can get on. So I appreciate you having me on. Even though we're sponsored, you still have other things to talk about. So I appreciate to be here today. I from my perspective, we're in unprecedented times, at least since the late 70s, early 80s. I think we're, Volcker, who was the Fed reserve head at that point, went through a kind of similar dynamic where we had heavy inflation. Inflation was much higher than it is today. I mean, we were in 14, 15, 16% inflation.
Right,
and it was and it went on for years. I mean, we're talking 4 or 5 years of really heavy inflation. And precious metals did really well. And you probably remember the Hunt brothers tried to corner the silver market in the early 80s, which is pretty interesting idea for someone to try to kill the whole market. They weren't able to do it. But it is a small market. Not to go on a total tangent, but I was thinking about the amount of silver uses today, and there are funds that could pretty much take over the silver market. They could control a big amount of it. Now, they couldn't control mining, but they could control a lot of the supply out there. They haven't done it yet, but it'd be interesting to see if anybody does try to do that, especially where the prices are today. We've had big corporations try to control the pricing and the squeeze. When you got into silver at $32 an ounce, it had actually gone, I don't know exactly when you got it, but it had gone all the way up to almost $50 an ounce. And then they put a squeeze on the traders, they increased the amount of money you had to put on a margin call, and that pushed the price down from 49, and then it kind of stayed in the $30 range for quite some time. I think like 2000, probably like you're probably in like 2012, 13 range if I'm correct. But I think what it is today is, with these inflation numbers, they came out. The reason the stock market went down so much is I think people thought inflation was sort of already baked in and maybe it would start reversing, and it actually went up a little bit.
Yeah.
And that just sent shockwaves, and the reason the market's doing that is just the sell-offs, right? I mean, it's just people are just scared, and they're liquidating their portfolios, because they know that these inflation numbers are going to affect everything. They're going to affect hiring. Unemployment has been, I think, incredibly low, thank God. But I think those numbers are going to go up, and we've seen a lot of the big corporations say, Amazon, Tesla, I mean, you name it, they've all said they're going to slow down on hiring. So I think we're going to have, kind of a freeze for a while. But yeah, ultimately, like, everything has been every core asset has been basically beaten up over the last few months since they started announcing inflation 7, 8, 9%. People they are scared. They don't know what to do exactly, and they're just selling a lot of their assets, and that's causing this very volatile stock market.
So let me ask you this. Let's say someone let's just pick a modest figure of $10,000 to invest in Noble Gold. How does that work? Because let's just say that a lot of our listeners, or some of our listeners, are neophytes. They've never done this. They've got some money. They're looking at the maybe the collapse of the dollar, which is another question we'll get to a little bit later. The so-called Great Reset, where all this is going. The fact that some countries are trading trading oil and other currencies other than the petrodollar. So I mean, we are looking at a very volatile, unstable economic landscape, as it were. So let's say I had $10,000 hypothetically, and it's been parked in a bank for a while, but I want to invest it because inflation is killing me. I'm losing money on it. So I come to you and I go, Collin, how does this work? Lead me through it, please.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess 10,000 is $9,200 right now, but unfortunately, yeah. So, what we do is we're big. I think we're one of the first companies really focused on education. So, we're not gonna, out of the gate, you're gonna call in and you're gonna talk about, your goals and what you've learned about precious metals and what and what you're thinking. And so and there's no black or white answer. It's really sort of gray in that the portfolio, what you're buying or what you're interested in, could change depending on what you're looking for. So the 4 precious metals we focus on will be gold, silver, platinum, palladium. Palladium and has gone through a huge surge because of the catalytic converters. It has a ton of industrial uses. So the price has really skyrocketed. Platinum has actually been kind of destroyed over the last 4 or 5 years. You probably remember when platinum has always been more expensive than gold, but
Sure.
now it's not. So it's shifted a lot, which is interesting because out of the 4, it's the most rare. It's the hardest to mine. So that, we'll talk about that and those 2 metals. And then gold and silver are the ones that most people buy. And the percentage of gold and silver could sort of shift depending on, what you're looking for. And silver is more volatile in that it's more of an industrial metal. So it has more volatility, as you've seen. But gold is more stable because gold sits in central banks. And to what you were saying about Russia, Russia and China and a lot of the big countries have been trying to move away from the dollar for years. I mean, they've been trying to get to a different currency, and you're seeing it now. If you look at the numbers for treasuries, central banks treasuries, they've dropped in the last 10 years. The amount of US dollars in central banks has dropped by over 20%. So they are divesting, they are going into different assets. It's already happening. And this control that the US dollar has had over the world has really shrunk very dramatically. So, there are, Russia has been one of the biggest buyers of gold over the last 10 years. China has also been. So a lot of countries that have seen where things are going have been buying gold and silver for a long time. And on the physical side, it's interesting because on the stock market, gold and silver have dropped a lot this year. But if you talk to dealers like us and wholesalers and everybody out there, the physical market has not shrunk. It's actually gone up pretty dramatically. The buying of the physical has gone up a lot. The stock version, the ETFs, the prices pull back, but in the physical, people are buying because I think they know that we're going to see a run. And really it's the price of gold is based on sell-offs, silver based on sell-offs, and also the dollar's been very strong, right? I mean, anyone that's gone traveled or done anything in the last few months is really happy. If you've gone overseas, you're ecstatic because the dollar is finally a currency that is strong, and the pound compared to the dollar. I mean, we've never seen anything like this before. It's
true. It used to be 2-1. Now it's not. It's amazing.
Now it's not. Yeah, I mean, I went 20 years ago to Europe backpacking, and I was barely able to afford anything. And now, if you go overseas anywhere, it's the dollar's strong because the government's shifted, right? They've gone in a different direction, and they're raising interest rates, and they're pushing the dollar and making it stronger, which I don't think will last for a long time, but they are doing it in the short term. And there's some definite pros and cons to that. But basically 10,000 is a great place to start for a lot of people. And then the question is it an IRA, or do you want to get it, are you going to do it with just some cash? So, this is all just a conversation. And that's the thing that I love about precious metals. What I love about this business is that you're buying something it's real, it's tangible. You're not buying, you're not buying like a stock or an ETF. This is just a coin that got kind of a little bit. This is a 5-ounce America the Beautiful coin that kind of got lost. It wasn't in its case. Oh, this is the Ellis Island one. This is one of the really cool
wow,
ones.
very cool.
This is, this is real silver, right? This isn't, this isn't like a stock version. That's what people are going to be buying is the real deal.
And so the bullion comes to your door then, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can store it if you want to store it. We have segregated storage. But most people want it. They want to have it. They hold it and they're safe. And 10,000 of gold and silver is not a lot of metal that you can store. I mean, you can fit $1 million of gold in a shoebox. So I mean, it's nice to have a little liquid wealth in your hands. I think people really enjoy that. And depending on where the markets are, if the market shut down or anything happens, the physical market never closes, right? I mean, it's not, the stock market closed after 9/11. It wasn't like the gold and silver market closed. Those things don't close. So it is nice to have something that's sort of independent of the digital market.
Let me ask you this. Let's say someone decided to invest $10,000. Would you recommend gold, silver, palladium? I mean, where would you? I mean, silver is really low right now. I mean, and it's like, I mean, and this is my question. First question with the silver, and then the second question is where would they put their money, or is that just a matter of personal preference? But I believe that the silver market has literally been held down artificially for decades.
Yeah.
When you compare what gold did,
sure,
at the turn of the century to what silver did, which is it's just a joke. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree with you. I believe I prefer silver, but I think it's good to have a little bit of both. So
Okay.
kind of looking at the numbers, I think we're running about 55 or 60% silver to gold right now. Last month, just kind of shifted over since I've been in the business, like last 13, 14 years. Used to be like 80-20 gold to silver when I started, 90-10.
Wow.
When I started, it was really low. So no one really bought silver. But now that, people are getting solar panels on their houses and they're going, wait a minute, like what's in this? And there's silver there, right? you know, silver is such a conductive metal.
Used everywhere. Sure.
It works in everything. I mean, you look at the scales out of 100, 0 to 100. I mean, it's like 100. It's like one of the best metals to choose. So you have solar panels, which, you know, a lot of people with, you know, if you're in California, you know, they had the grid issue, and, you know, they're telling everybody to stop using their air conditioning and not charge their car. And but then they're telling you not to buy a gas car, which is funny. Like, you know, and it was funny. It was the week before they passed a law. No, we're not going to, you know, in 10 years, no more gas cars. We're not going to make them. Then next week they said, don't charge your electric car.
So how's that going to work?
How are you going to get to work?
Just Elmer Fudd, you know, it's unbelievable.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, unless you want to hitchhike to work, but so I think
bicycles.
Yeah, bicycles, right? Sure. Yeah, in California. Yeah, good idea. I mean, it's so I think there's a lot of industrial use. So I think we've definitely leaned have people have bought more silver from us than in the past. And you know, the demand for silver is really skyrocketed. Even the US Mint has had a hard time getting silver. I don't know if you've seen any of those stories, but they've really struggled, and their products have become the least desirable products because they've been able to get such a small amount of silver. They're charging this huge premium on their products. Like this 5-ounce coin, America the Beautiful coin. You know, years and years ago, we used to sell a ton of these coins because they're very affordable. And it's actually, they only make between 20 and 30,000 of each style. So I thought, you know, that's pretty low mintage. Like those are probably worth something, and they're bullion, so they're great value. But now those are selling, you know, 40% above the silver price. So we haven't sold any of those. The only time we give them away is gifts. If people do an IRA, we'll give them away. But we don't really sell them much because we try to get people the most bang for their buck, and that's not really the best item right now. So I agree with you. I think silver's a good value. Now, listen, gold it's more rare. There's only enough in the whole world of gold to fit in 2.5 size Olympic size swimming pools. So it's definitely more rare. It's harder to get. You know, the holders of gold, these big corporations, these hedge funds, these countries, they're holders for long term. So that is part of the reason the price is so much higher, you know, than silver. But if you like the industrial uses, you believe in it, then yeah, I think it's a good place to be.
Let me ask you this. Let's say someone didn't want the bullion, didn't want to, you know, deal with the bullion. So how would an IRA work? I mean, how would that $10,000 into an IRA, how would that work for them?
What do you mean? Like if they don't want to hold it, or they don't want to, they don't want to, yeah, we could store it. Yeah. The IRA the IRA has to be stored technically.
Right.
The cash transactions can go to your doorstep. But you're buying the same, whatever we send to your doorstep, it's the same product that we have in storage. So, but the cool thing about it is, you know, if everything hits the fan, and you know you're at retirement, the really nice thing about it is it's one of the only assets you could actually take in your IRA as your distribution. So, you know, when you turn 59 and a half, whatever IRA you have the option to start taking it out tax-free, depending on what type of, not tax-free, penalty-free, excuse me. And you could decide to liquidate it, get back into cash, or you could take the gold and silver. So a lot of people are taking the gold and silver right now because the price is low. So they're taking it out at sort of a low basis, and then they'll have that gold and silver, and then they'll sell it later on when the price goes up. So I think it's good for flexibility. People like that aspect that they can actually take it's something in their IRA. There's really nothing else like that, you know, that you can actually hold in I mean, you can buy real estate in your IRA, but you're not actually, you know, kind of holding on to that real estate. Yeah, and I know we were kind of, before we got on, we were talking about Airbnbs and you know, that's, you know, I'm a big believer in diversification. I'm a big believer in physical assets. So I also have an Airbnb. The one thing I would say is they are a tremendous amount of work.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of hidden costs. I've had this property for about a year now, And there's a lot of hidden costs there that you can't even sort of think about, you know. There was an issue just last week where we had a problem with our pool, and the water is draining, and obviously people went to this house to use the pool, so we had to send them out a gift basket. Not a huge deal, but not a cost that we sort of had thought about. And you know, I could go on and on, but there's a lot of these that hidden costs there. I mean, you know, Airbnb, when you list it, it's 8 to 10%. So, you know, anytime they actually help you find somebody, they charge a pretty significant fee. So there are, I'm not saying don't do it. I have the experience. I've done it. We're probably trending profitability in the next 12 to 18 months, but it does take time, and there's a lot of brain damage there. And anytime you own real estate, you know, there is that, you know, and they're not easy to move, right? Like, even if I wanted to get out of that property now, I couldn't sell it. So there's not that flexibility there too. So that would be my other side of it.
And that leads me to another point. I mean, the housing market now, you know, you go back a year, and it was just a bull market, you know, sellers market, people bidding, you know, you're listing, let's say, just an arbitrary figure, $200,000, people are coming in at 230, 240, 250, and all across the spectrum, the low end, let's say below 200s to 300s, those things were selling quickly, 24 hours bidding. But the same was happening on the higher end of the market.
No, it was happening everywhere. And it was partly because the money was so cheap, right? I mean, we're talking about interest rates below 3 a year ago, 2.85.
Right.
My loan on this property, I think, is like 2.9 or something, 2.95, something like that. I mean, that's
interest rates are up around 5 or 6%, which, you know, when we bought our house here in the Santa Monica Mountains, our interest rate, I might making this up, originally was, I think, 18% interest. And then we refinanced. We were just tickled because we got a 12%.
Right.
Finally got down to like 7. Then the fire happened, and the rest is history. But I mean, you know, people are balking at 5 or 6%. I mean, it's like,
no, I mean, and well, and it's you know, I look at all money, right? I'm in the money business, right? I'm in the old money business, right? Noble Gold is old money. I mean, that's really what it is. But I look at, you know, I was even looking at, like, the 2-year treasury came out at like 3.76%, which, man, I think last year, 2 years ago, if you told someone close to retirement that they could get a 2-year treasury at almost 4%, they would have jumped in the air. They've been so happy. But now inflation's 8.5%, right? And you know, and unfortunately, the 10-year is much lower. Because, you know, and I always look at pros and cons of all the different, you know, maybe someone's close to retirement. If you could get that same rate over a 10-year span, you figure maybe inflation will get back to normal. Maybe it's a good buy. But I also look at, you know, where inflation is today. I mean, there's 40 first and second world countries right now that have double-digit inflation. And so are we going back to that 2% mandate anytime soon? I don't foresee it happening in a quick manner, unless they do some funny math and they pull out a few things in there that really keep the numbers where they should be. So I think it's going to be interesting. I think our new norm is probably going to be when things settle in, you know, 12 to 18 months. I think our new norm is going to be between 4 and 5%. I think that's where we're going to be sitting. And to get back to 2%, it's going to be real hard. I think it's going to take a long time to get there, and it's going to take, you know, a lot of these supply issues getting fixed. Because a lot of it is the cost of goods is we're just not able to get stuff here in a quick manner, and partly that is what happened with the pandemic. Partly it's going on with Russia, right? I mean, there's goods there's issues there that we can't. There's products that we can't get. They obviously control a lot of the world's oil. That makes a big difference. So there's a lot of these issues that I just don't see going away anytime soon. And, you know, that's why I think, like, the market has really tanked. And that's why I think people are like you, kind of looking around going, what can I get into right now that seems what's undervalued, right? And that's the thing that I think everybody's looking for. What's the undervalued asset right now?
Well, let me ask you this, there's all this talk and, tinfoil hat conspiracy people, are looking at this great reset. We keep hearing about it.
Yeah.
Politicians have talked about it. World leaders have talked about it. It almost looks like they're trying to destroy America deliberately. I don't know who they are, but I mean, when you look at what's going on with this administration in the last 18 months, it's everything is just sliding into oblivion. And now
Yeah.
there's something like well over 200 or whatever the number is, food processing plants in America. And I mean, you get all this, it's a very volatile, strange mix. But we keep hearing, the Great Reset, the Great Reset. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's real, or is
Yeah.
that just, a bunch of smoke?
Well, I think cryptocurrency has really made it more believable. I think the fact that it's been so easy for these other currencies to transact has really opened the door to the potential of maybe there being a different currency out there. I think these alternative currencies, these cryptocurrencies, there's a lot of money in those now, and there's a lot of money that would have typically sat in money markets, or typically sat in some mutual funds, or typically sat in traditional investments, that's not sitting there, and it won't probably go back there for a long time. So I think there's the possibility of a reset. The question always is, who will trust the new currency
Yeah.
if there's nothing backing it, right? And that's the question that I think all of us are wondering. I mean, there are countries that have had to change currencies over the last, Zimbabwe, for instance, but typically those countries have, dictatorships that have, spiked inflation, much higher than what we're seeing. And they have no choice, right? They have no choice because their currencies, don't make sense. And I have a Zimbabwe currency somewhere. I can't find it out, but it says it's like $1 trillion,
Yeah,
note.
there it is. It's just a joke.
Yeah, it doesn't
Right.
and it's like kind of gold leaf. It looks great, but it says $1 trillion, but it's worth nothing.
Yeah.
So I think it's all comes down to how do they frame it so that people will actually use those new currencies. I just don't see how that trust level will be there. That's the hard issue. I think the different way that they can ruin they can ruin the dollar is with, if we went into hyperinflation. If that scenario happens, then undoubtedly we start seeing 15, 18, 20, 22% inflation, then I think the world will be calling for a new currency, right? The world, that's why the dollar is the world's reserve currency, is because of what happened to Great Britain. They had heavy inflation from World War II, and the Bretton Woods exchange happened. And that's basically how the switch happened, is because they just didn't seem that strong. So that's really what it's going to come down to is the US going to continue to be strong? Are people going to have that perception? Or as you said, are we sliding down into a place where we're no longer, the superpower and the strongest economy? We're not there yet, but there's definitely some people believe that it could happen, and it is scary to think that that our dollars could go to nothing and have crazy inflation, and that does scare people, and that's why when we were talking before, and that's why I like real estate, that's why I like precious metals, that's why I like these items, because you can't replace these are limited supply items, right? They're not fiat. You can't just print them out of thin air. So
what about the Iraqi dinar? I remember when all the hoopla with that, and it's kind of revaluing. There's some guy that's I won't disparage him by publicly mentioning his name, but he's got this web page that he does, and this has been going on. I mean, a really close friend of mine got into this and really believed it was going to revalue yesterday at 3:00.
Oh,
it's been going on for
it's been going on for 15 years, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's been going on. That's actually, it's funny. That was when I got into the business, like I think it was 14 years ago. One of my first 10 calls of guys said, I'm going to have it's $300 million to buy gold in a few weeks, because the currency is going to reset. And I didn't really know what, I was like, wait a minute, what's happening? And so I used to get a lot of those calls. Yeah, there was a lot of these kind of hawksters, selling these items, unfortunately. And yeah, I don't know if that's, that's not a currency that I think people are excited to.
No, I don't, it's just a lot of smoke,
Yeah.
to fly too. So let's kind of wrap it up here. We're getting on the 40-minute mark.
Yeah.
In the Zoom thing. So, circling back, $10,000 investment, people could either put it in an IRA, they could buy, just straight on cash for bullion, hold
Correct.
that. It's sort of up in the air. I mean, part of me is itching to get back into the silver market because, having watched it go up and down, I still think it's being artificially held down. I really do. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, silver hit, almost $30 an ounce near the end of 2020. It doubled. It went from $13.90 to $29 and a quarter, I think. So I think it'll run fast when we pull back the interest rates. I think, and I don't know when that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I think it'll run real fast. And that's the thing about metals, is that they can move so quickly. And the great thing is we obviously will buy it back. If you double, let's say you bought it, it's a little bit higher than it was back then, but let's say it hit 30 again and you go, hey, you know what, we did great. We're up, 40, 45%. I want to get out of it. We obviously buy it back. We sell those items every day. So it's very liquid. So that's one of the reasons I like it right now compared to some of the other assets, is it is so liquid, it's so desired. So yeah, absolutely. People can get into it and sell at any time. And, that's something that we're always here to help people with. And that's with Noble Gold. That's a part of it, is we sell, these bullion items, these bars, these coins. These are things that people buy and sell every day. We don't get into exotic stuff, rare. A lot of companies push these rare coins. They have their own agenda because they make more money on these products. And we don't do any of that stuff. We sell. I work the market to get the lowest price products that I can. And based on volume, that's what I've been doing for since I started, is get it. If I can get it, how low I can get it, and then we get it out to our clients, and help them avoid things like the silver American Eagle because it's overpriced, things like this. Obviously you want to buy a silver Eagle, you can buy it from us, but we're going to tell you there's other items that are going to get you more weight. So we're here, give us a call. But like I said, nothing's, black and white. You call, you get information, you're going to talk to someone like me. I've trained everybody here. We're a low pressure environment. You're going to like the people you talk to here. Even my father he came out of retirement because he was bored and he doesn't play golf. So he works here a few hours a day and talks to people, and he loves it. He's 76 years old and he loves it. He's a Vietnam vet and, worked in different industries and collected coins as a kid. So, we have younger people too, but it's just a conversation. It's just basically a conversation.
And that's noblegold.com, but give us the phone number, Collin, please.
877-646-5347.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for joining us, and you're welcome here anytime, especially if you see the market going one way, or it's an opportunity for people to jump in or something. It's always good to, a lot of people, well, not a lot, some people don't pay any attention to finances, but, we're in the world. I get that. And, if I want to have chicken for dinner, I got to go down to the market and I got to, pay for that somehow. So it's very important.
What you said is so important. And this is something that I've been talking to a lot of people about, is right now is the best time to look at your finances. Because I will tell you this, is people are afraid right now. They're not looking at their accounts. These are when opportunities are there. You have to look at your accounts. It's really important that you do that. And if you do, in a few years, you'll be happy that you did. I promise you that.
Noblegold.com. Collin, thanks so much for coming on the record. You're welcome here at any time, sir.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
They got their knowledge from the heavens.
He saw it, said, "Whoa, that's a UFO." This orb comes up and it's bright orange.
I'm not wanting to make full eye contact with these things. But from what I did see, when I did look at them, they're like they're soulless.
It was right directly above us right here, and then it started tilting and moving up like that.
All of a sudden I was being lifted about 3 feet off the ground.
It was going slow. I was walking right underneath it.